Okay. Yes, to me too, Francesca, Elisabetta's questions have completely messed up my agenda. So I'll try to make sense. She has so many questions, which are very important questions. For example, why do we want to build the commons? The first one, obvious. Why do we want to do it? Well, first of all, I don't think the commons is primarily a political tool or a concept. Not that of course, we want to become a political tool, but primarily is a tool for people to access resources and experiment and practice ways, modes of producing together. The political tool becomes when these new mode of productions that embed values which are completely different than the mainstream values of capital, neoliberalism, or whatever, becomes a force, turn into a force that contrasts the hegemony of capitalist values, okay? So there is politics, of course, involved, but primarily is building new social relations of productions, which also include reproductions, no? So it's that means, machines that create new politics that we cannot anticipate now, or we can just gather, in what we see around, of course, okay? And I think it goes down also to what is, yesterday there was again, I go back to Gianni of the film, who mentioned the old cooperatives when they came out to be part of this system, which included the party to give the horizons, okay? Okay, what is the horizons here? What is our meaning, something we never debate, our understanding of social, it says here, transformations. Funny that this is transformation, we never talk about transformation. We are so afraid to talk about it because we're always afraid to bang into some ideological thing. But no, you don't need to be ideological. We can talk, I think. To me, the commons are essential in an idea of social transformation. I mean, one idea of social transformation is the one linked to the party, okay? Oh, there are so many good people all around Europe, all around the world. Why don't we pull them together, this new intelligentsia, and we make a new party? And when we think that way, we feel and experience the loss of what used to be, linked to an idea of transformation that historically dramatically failed, and therefore we absolutely cannot go back to that. We have to think, though, new way. It doesn't mean that we cannot imagine new ways. So we have to think about all these issues that we talked about, the relation with the state, are fundamental. We have to embrace them and have a big debate. But in my opinion, the commons are linked to social transformations, and to understand that, or to just glimpse at it, I had to go back not to Lenin, but to Marx. Marx's own view of social transformation, when he makes a clear distinction between social revolutions and political revolution. He talks about this in Capital. Capital, to me, is a highly productive book. I know that in Italy, Capital is only used by some very orthodox readers. I'm not an orthodox reader of Marx, and generally prefer Grundrisse, but I like Capital and read in a non-orthodox way. And in Capital we find the idea of the distinction between social and economic and political revolution. By social revolution, Marx means the emerging of a new mode of production. Okay, maybe at the beginning the interstices of the old, but definitely creating its own space and slowly becoming and creating a new political force. Why? Because you need the space to move. Someone talked about we need also legitimization. Yes, but in order to have legitimization by the state, by the law, that is to have on our side some of the social powers that exist at this particular moment, we need to have to build a social force that can be forceful enough to grab that bit of social powers, like what Capital has done in its own evolution. Capital has done this. Capital didn't just happen after the revolution. Capital developed before the revolutions that allow it then to just shake his shoulder and get rid of a lot of privilege of the aristocracy in France, for example, or in England even earlier. Okay? So I think this is my understanding of the importance, of the historical importance of commons, is that if they develop by at the same time meeting needs and creating new relations of productions, they will be able, through connection social movements, of creating commons movement, forcing new laws. For example, in the state. I mean, what's the relation with the state? I mean, the state, we talked about yesterday, oh, we need the state because of health. Yeah. But the person who hold the patient's hand while he or she dies, and I'm quoting here from a union doctor who are now struggling in Britain, it's not the state, it's a person. Okay, it's an act of very intimate commoning there, very intimate commoning, which in fact the union doctors are defending in their struggle. Okay, the care of people is between nurses, wives, sisters, brothers, husbands, and a sick person. Okay, this interlacing of relations is not the state who maybe fund something, but are the actual people who in those contexts create certain relations. So the state we can, in our relation to the state at any particular moment is a relation of a deal that we reach to the state in terms of distribution of resources, a deal that movements have managed in the past to reach, and then we now fight often because this deal is being revoked by the state itself, okay? But we cannot just go back to the welfare state. We have to move forward. Subjectivities have expanded. We now have, as has been mentioned, this desire to open up, for example, talking about still again health, to open up different forms of healthcare, different forms of communities. We need to communalize, to use an ambiguous word, some functions of the state, that is to acquire control of it. How? I don't know. We can talk about it, we can talk experiments about it, but we need to communalize it in terms of deep democratizing those functions, in terms of clearly accountability for those who are paid, Okay? And in terms of boundaries, of expanding this boundary, to make it more porous, to allow more inclusion of practices, of peoples, so the strategies of the commons is not just outside what appears to be the state or capital, because the commons are also inside the state and capital. They are in the canteens of factories, offices, schools, universities, or hospitals. They are in the solidarity practices that the workers have done, but also the wealth. And I go back, and I finish, I go back to the first question, because this is important. I think that is a political understanding, I think. The second question was, what defines a common, and who decided? Who decided? Well, the common, actually, no, the question was, what defines a common good? And who? No, you say common good, and I will answer that. No, you say common good. And who decided? Well, the commoners themselves decided. Whenever there is a common good that the commoners claim as common good, then you have magically, at that very moment, the beginning of a process that creates a common system. Okay, and it's out of systems, social system, a particular type of social systems, that you create social forces. That is, up to a certain point, after a certain turning point or critical masses, then it becomes political. That sense. Okay. So the answer is essentially omnia sunt communia, all in commons, as an horizons, though, not as just an empty ideological point.
Thank you, Massimo. We have now our last intervention by